All right, welcome to another episode of the Freezin 4 NFC North Podcast, episode 35, Week 7 review, Week 8 preview. Packers lose their third straight. Bears run past the Patriots, and Lions are lassoed by the Cowboys. How's everyone doing today?
Good. Happy Wednesday. I'm happy that it's halfway through the week and kind of getting last week's loss put behind us and looking forward to maybe something happening Sunday night. I'm not holding my breath though.
Absolutely. Lots to get to, and I wanted to introduce you. Welcome to the show, Emily Johnson. And where can everyone find you on social media and everything?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for having me. I am on Twitter at Emily with two Y's and then Johnson with three N's. And then I'm also on Instagram with just my first and last name, Emily Johnson.
Are those three N's for the 3 straight losses for the Packers, or
something like that? I'm not sure.
Gotta bring that. And welcome back, Viking Dave. How are you doing?
I'm great. All I know is I left a couple of weeks ago. The Vikings won 2 games. The Packers lost 3 games. It's been an amazing couple of weeks for me, so we're good.
And surprisingly, I mean, I know, Emily, you laughed when I said Bears run past the Patriots, but honestly, I tried to stay away from that game as much as possible because I didn't think much was going to happen. They won. Mm-hmm. We can get into a little bit of that, but I think when it comes down to this week, the headlines for me, obviously I would love to focus on the Bears, but the headlines are the Packers and, what's kind of been happening. And we kind of talked about, throughout the last few weeks, we've talked about their schedule and some of these must wins. So when you look at this game, what happened? I mean, losing their third straight to the Commanders.
Yeah. It was a disaster. This whole season has been just an ugly. I'm surprised we're not 0-7, honestly. Bringing it back, somehow the Bears just completely demolished the Patriots in a sense, and we struggled to a third string quarterback at home and went into overtime. And it's just been like, those have been really ugly games. And in years past, we've always been able to win those like ugly games. So, win's a win. But this year, it's just, we're not making things happen. The team is just discombobulated. And I don't know, it's not just because we lost Adams or, what everybody on, Packers Twitter wants to say. Something's not right. And it sucks to say this because I'm the biggest Aaron Rodgers lover that there is. Like, he's my man. I will die for him. But he's not on, and something's off with him, and I don't know what it is. And I think with him, being off, the rest of the team is off.
Yeah, when it comes to the most important position on an NFL team, it is the quarterback. And when you look at Aaron Rodgers, he has the talent, but something is up. Like, it just seems like leadership-wise, obviously he does what he needs to do. And we talked about, offline to start, he calling out his, teammates in the media. What were your thoughts on that? And do you think that could maybe spur this team on to turn things around, or?
I would hope so. I mean, I think that there is like a certain, level to being a leadership. You got to watch what you say, but also at the same time, you do got to light a fire underneath your people. And as a leader, everything rises and falls on leadership. That's taught from the beginning. And so as a quarterback, you've got to be able to, communicate with your players. And I think there's always been, for the past couple of years, if he misses a throw, the camera immediately pans into him because, he's going to drop an F-bomb or do the, classic eye roll. And that's not encouraging, for a player. It slipped out of your hands. Yeah, that's your one job, to catch the ball. But if you're constantly knowing that you're either A, not going to be targeted, or B, he's holding that, resentment towards you, it's not good. So I think that there needs to be like, come to a common place and just say, hey, like, let's get this together. Like, let's fix this and turn this around.
As a Vikings fan, kind of sitting back, Dave, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you have, complete confidence now that the Vikings are going to win the division, or are you still kind of holding back a little bit?
Yes, because the schedule's not difficult. One, although I'm not that. I've seen us lose division leads this big before, so it's not over with. But we're playing well. The Packers seem to be in disarray, like she's saying. Like, and if Rodgers is, he's the one that drives the bus. If he's not happy and he's annoyed and all that, like, it's gonna come out to everyone sees that. You know what I mean? Like, you you can't be a teammate of his and not realize that he's throwing you under the bus without like saying your name. So that can, sometimes those guys will probably play scared, like, oh, I can't drop a ball. And when you do, like, it's just going to spiral. Like, you got to have it starts at the top, and he's the quarterback. And I still think he's one of the best players, but when something's not right, like she said, like something just isn't right. Who knows what it is? I don't think it's just Adams anymore. Originally, I thought it would be, but now it feels like it's a lot more. So, I'd be surprised if they could. I wouldn't be surprised if they made the playoffs, but I'd be surprised if they were able to come back and win the division.
When you look at Aaron Rodgers' legacy, I mean, it is anything about this season, like changing what your thoughts are on his kind of overall legacy, Emily?
I would say no. I mean, he's still like Mr. Dave said, like going to go down in like the history as one of the greatest quarterbacks. He doesn't have the Super Bowls like Brady does, but in terms of how he plays, he's incredible. I think that this year it's obviously not going to look good for the stats and not good of those, for everyone that drafted him on fantasy football, putting up a couple points, but maybe he can turn things around. I don't know. Maybe it's the haircut. He started that season with that new haircut, and I was like, oh yeah, we going 17-0, and that hasn't happened. So I don't think it will tarnish his legacy. I mean, you can say the same thing for Brady. He's having the same struggles. Maybe it's just old man problems this year. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and so Tangan had this comment here. At the same time, everyone thought the Packers would fall apart after Rodgers, not when he is still the starter. I need to kind of rewind the show. And in the offseason, I looked at the schedule. We on the show, and we kind of went through, and I was probably the only one, and very controversially, who said, maybe 8-9 wins for the Packers. When you look at schedule, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, that could be a very real possibility, especially, with some of the tough games that are coming up, and not taking care of these winnable ones the last couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely frightening. I know for me, I was saying earlier, I do have tickets to go to the Packers-Cowboys game. I do live in Dallas, and so that's always like that's a national holiday in our family. And so we bought tickets to go, thinking, week 2, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to smash the Cowboys. It's going to be so good. And it's just kind of like, grasping that reality that we're more than likely going to lose that game, and just knowing that it's going to have to be okay. Speaking of like when the schedule started, like I was saying, like 13-4, we've been pretty consistent with 13 wins under Coach LaFleur, and we've never had back-to-back losses ever. And then to have 3 losses in a row, it's just kind of like a slap in the face to say the least,
Yeah. And when you look at that, I mean, I've been on football teams that have lost before, and obviously it's not to this level, but I mean, when you start to lose and it just can spiral, out of hand. And especially when you have these professionals, and Aaron Rodgers is definitely calling, people out in the media and wanting them to, make adjustments, but he definitely does too. I mean, he says he's tried a lot of different things in leadership, so it'll be interesting to see what more he can do. And maybe even, I don't know, it looks more and more like maybe this might be his last season. I don't know, if he would want to endure this again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very plausible. I know. I think he's due to get $60 million at the, if he plays next year. So it might be a little bit
reasons to come back. He's got some reasons to come back.
A small incentive, but yeah, we've always been able to count on Rodgers. Always, at the end of the day, he's put the whole team on his back. How many times, has the defense lost us in the playoffs? The countless number of things. And this season, he's not doing that. It's just. He's the reason we're off. And so as a lifelong Rodgers fan, it's so hard to say like, yeah, put Jordan Love in, because I don't think Love is the answer either. Mm-hmm. But I don't know at this point, like what could be much worse, and it's hard to say that. And it's hard to admit that, especially to other NFC North rivals. But, in the spirit of transparency, that's how I feel.
Well, it could be. It's much worse when you watch the Bears completely dominate the Patriots on Monday Night Football. They ran all over the Patriots, over 230 yards rushing, and Fields had some great plays. He is kind of reminding people that he can be that quarterback, and so as a Bears fan, it's good to see that. But I'm trying not to get too high or too low. I mean, there are people like, oh, look at that, we're going to Super Bowl now, and that was just it shake my head at that. I mean,
Yeah.
as a fan, you can't look at it game by game when you're in the shoes that the Bears are. I mean, it was a great win, and a lot of great things by the defense as well, Jaquan Brisker, and all those things. And when you look at it, Bears have been high and low. So it's nice to see, but I still don't expect a lot, from the rest of the season. I mean, what are your thoughts, Dave, when you kind of sat back and watched the Bears win on Monday night?
I was a lot more impressed than I thought I would be. I didn't necessarily think they'd get blown out because they've been playing pretty competitive. But I thought the Patriots would win for sure. I mean, they just beat somebody the week before pretty good. I don't remember. They just play. I mean, it's Belichick. You just kind of think he'll figure it away. But the Bears looked really good. They look solid. Fields is looking. I still think he sucks, but he's looking a little bit better. He's looking a little bit better the last couple of weeks. So, I mean, I'm sure as like a Bears fan, as I said all season, that's all you really want from this season. Just make sure he, hopefully develops, and he's looked a little bit better. So, I still don't think they're a threat to the north. Yeah, to the north at least. Not yet. But they're playing well, and I mean, I guess that's all you can ask for as a Bears fan, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, and what I liked is, they got that win, and they talked about it on Chicago radio and in Chicago media that, past general managers and even fans, I mean, you kind of look at that win and be like, okay, well, we're this close, and let's just keep going. And what I liked is from the general manager, Ryan Poles, is that he didn't, take that as, we're a team that's going to buy now because we're just going to barely make the playoffs or whatever. I liked today, they went ahead and traded Robert Quinn to the Eagles for a 4th round draft pick. They freed up more cap space. I like that, savvy general managers and leadership. They do that when you have something good like that happen, you flip it for the best you can. I mean, what were your thoughts when you kind of saw that trade come across, Emily?
I was surprised. I have a coworker that's an Eagles fan, and so he's been a fun person to deal with, especially this season. I was surprised. I mean, it seems like the Eagles are just stacking up. They almost are reminding me of was it Rams last year that started just, all the season trades, and yet they don't have a draft pick. We joke till 2035. So I'm starting to feel those kind of vibes. And I think that teams are going to start picking up on that all-in mentality, which the Rams did. And then they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So it worked for them. But now look at them this year. And so I'm wondering if that's the Eagles mentality is, hey, let's go all in. We have a good shot. Let's see what we can do and just kind of run with it.
Were you surprised, Dave, when you saw that come across?
I didn't really think he was on the block, but it's I'm not shocked that they did it because I think it's smart. Like you said, I think you're getting money. He's an older player. I mean, you're getting a draft pick. He's an older player. You're getting a draft pick. You know what I mean? Like you're getting all, clearing the cap. That's what I meant. You're clearing some cap space. You're doing all of that stuff for, like you said, you're probably not winning the Super Bowl, and you understand that. So the smart move is acquire assets for the future, and I think that's I think it was a good move, and it's a really good move for Philly, which I hate because I don't like them.
When you look at, I mean, teams that could compete with the Vikings, for in the playoffs, and still possibly the Packers if they make it there, right? The Eagles are going to be there. They're going to be, and they're stacking it up. And, it makes sense because the Bears were probably going to move on from Quinn at the end of the year anyway, cut him. So at least they get a 4th round draft pick. And Ryan Poles is shown that he can do some things with some of the later round picks. So I love the move. And, it's all around good for the Bears fans when the Bears win, they do this, and the Packers lose. So. Tang Yang said Eagles should be all in while they have guys on the rookie contracts before Eagles have to pay Hurts, Devonta. Exactly. Yep. I think that's going to be huge. I've been one that's, all on the Hurts bandwagon since, preseason and everything like that, off season. So I think that's good for them. And, it's good all around when you want to kind of rebuild, and that's what the Bears are. Now, a team we don't really touch on a lot because they haven't been winning. The Lions were lassoed by the Cowboys 24-6, and Julius was not able to be here tonight. I just got a message about that. But when we look at the Lions, Emily, what do you see from the Lions, all around?
Chaos. I don't know. I mean, they
Mhm.
start off the season good. They put up some good numbers, but then I think they got blown out by Miami, I believe. And then this game to the Cowboys, which the Cowboys, their defense is good. Like, I hate to admit that living in Dallas, hate to admit that, but their defense is good. Offense, iffy here and there. But it's kind of like you never know what to expect. I know we haven't played against the Lions this year, but I wouldn't be lying if I'm like, y'all might not want to bench your players like we've done in previous seasons. We're going to need everyone on the team to, try to fight them. I think they have some gut. I think that new coach that they have is, making them put up a fight. And I think also there's, you got to kind of have a little bit of tough mentality if you're going to be on Hard Knocks and, behind the scenes stuff on that. So I think they're, putting up some decent games, not great, not horrible.
Yeah, when I look at the Lions, I mean, they've got so many good offensive pieces, but then defensively, just to kind of fall apart the way they have, it's just and then even offensively as well versus the Patriots. So it's just it's hard to see. It sounds like the ownership is still with Dan Campbell, and but I don't know. I mean, are we worried at all about the Lions long term, Dave?
I don't feel until I feel like until I see it. No, I mean, remember everyone coming in the year. Oh, these aren't the same old Lions, and they're what 1-5. Like they are the same old Lions until they can do it. Like until I see you do it, I'm not scared of the Lions. Like that doesn't mean they can't beat us occasionally, but competing for the division, I'm not really worried about. It always seems like there's some teams that just will never be good. Cleveland seems like it's one of those teams. It's like they're just never going to be good. It doesn't matter, there's others, I'm sure, but I don't know. Like I said, until Detroit actually does it, and I see them being competitive for more than a year, I'm not really too worried about it at all. No.
Well, I want to. We'll just touch briefly here. And I have some keys. They're playing the Dolphins this week. It'll be interesting, obviously, to see how they cover Hill and Waddle. And
they won't.
Yeah, they probably won't. But on the other side, the Dolphins have weak pass coverage. So I'm in my fantasy football, I'm actually all in on Goff this week, and also the Miami is 23rd against tight ends. So Hawkinson's going to be an interesting play. This might be another high scoring game. I feel like the Lions at the beginning of the year had and they've had a ton of high scoring games, and they may be able to get close. They may be able to even win this game. I don't know. I mean, do you think they can win it, Emily?
It's hard to tell again with the, there's no consistency. I think if they had a better record, it might be able to, but again, like you said, they've had very high scoring games with not good outcomes. On the flip side, we've had very low scoring games with still not good outcomes. So I would hope not. It's funny that you mentioned Hill in fantasy. I actually have Tyreek Hill on my keepers league, and I got a trade come in today requesting to trade Jordan Love for Tyreek Hill. And I just rejected it as fast as possible. I was like, what? No.
Wow.
And I'm the only girl in that fantasy football league. I am 7-0, so I do have to brag about that.
Nice.
But I get the worst trade offers, and they're like, well, we'll give you a round pick, 2 years from now. I'm like, no. It's hilarious. But yeah, it was Jordan. He was like, well, you are a Packers fan. And I'm like, I don't want Love. Like, that's not going to help me.
No.
That's terrible.
That's frustrating. Let's see, Tang hanging a question. Be fair, the Lions game was 6-10 in the fourth quarter. So yeah, I mean, and I guess, I mean, is it more about the Lions or maybe about the Cowboys as they were trying to get their offense going again? Who knows? I mean, but when you look at, yeah, that's a horrible trade. Wow.
Yeah, that's awful.
I could write a book about all these horrible traits that I get as being the only female. And I'm not accepting that. I really I have a good team. I have a consistent team. Obviously, something's working out here. So,
right.
But no, I hope that the Dolphins win. Obviously, I know y'all probably do the same anytime that one of your, NFC North rivals plays against someone else. You always vote for the other team.
Of course.
But I actually like the Dolphins. I like Tyreek Hill. I think he's hilarious. I think all the different, big name players that got traded to a completely different team and making all these comments about their new quarterbacks, so their new players. It's just funny to be able to watch them. And I like Waddle. I think the little dance that he does is super cute. And they're just kind of a fun team to watch. Obviously some drama with, facility and, the staffing, with the Tua controversy and
Mm-hmm.
how they handled that. But it's kind of fun to root for them. But on the flip side, I love Jamal Williams on the Lions, especially because he came from us, and the energy that he has and just the love that he still has, maybe not for the Packers team, but for the fans, the ones that really supported him. So could be an interesting game. It might be one of those like really high scoring games that comes down to the very end on a field goal.
Yeah, it looks like Swift will be back. So him and Jamal Williams out of the backfield. Miami's 23rd against, receiving backs out of the backfield. So that'll be interesting to see. You talk about rooting or not rooting for, divisional teams. And the Lions are a team that because they haven't been good, I actually root for them, right?
I'm the same way. Like, if they were actually good, finally, like, I wouldn't be mad about it. They've been so bad for so long. I have no hatred towards them, like with Green Bay. It's like whatever. If Detroit was good, it wouldn't piss me off unless they were good for 20 years.
For a couple seasons, yeah.
Yeah, then I get tired of it. Yeah,
you get that anger built up.
Well, yeah. So like, it's interesting. I spent about 10 years in Minnesota, and so my anger was against Minnesota. Then I moved. Now I'm in Wisconsin, so it's Packers. But like I told you, Dave, I'm definitely rooting for the Vikings this year because I just living in Wisconsin, it's hard to have the Packers just in my ear all the time. But when you look at this week, then Emily, what are some of the keys for the Packers this week? I mean, it's just going to be Sunday Night Football. Is there any possibility that the Packers would get it together and beat the Bills on the road?
Very little. I know Rodgers has a good history of playing very good on primetime games. Gotta throw a dig at Dave, unlike someone else's quarterback.
Oh, yes.
That's the only thing I will say negative. I promise I'll be nice.
No need to be nice.
I want to be invited back, so I'm gonna try to be nice. I don't know if we, every post, conference game, we've got to get Aaron Jones, got to get the ball in his hands more, got to get the ball in his hands more. You say that every week, obviously, something's missing. The other thing is that, not defending Rodgers by any means, but the players got to catch the balls. I watched that very quickly in the Giants game. I think it was the Giants or the Jets game. I don't remember which one it was, but I tweeted out afterwards saying that if I was coach, I would have them, running bleachers from 7 a.m. like sun up to sundown. Like they've got to get some sort of control back. Otherwise, like you mentioned earlier, it's going to be a very long, slippery slope season. My chances of winning, I'm going to say 30%. I feel a little bit optimistic. Who knows? Maybe they'll be able to cook something up. But again, playing in Buffalo, we've had a lot of road games and things just aren't looking good.
Well, speaking of not looking good, it looked like so the Packers opened up as a 10.5 point underdog, and now by late Wednesday, it's 11.5 on Caesar Sportsbook. That is just crazy for an Aaron Rodgers team, right?
Yeah, absolutely insane.
That's crazy.
But when you look at it, obviously it's on the other side. Buffalo is, they've kind of taken that next step, and some of the keys that I had found when you look at it too, it'll be interesting. Obviously the secondary. We talked about offseason that this is great defense and everything. It'll be interesting to see how the Packers do against the deep ball. I mean,
yeah. As an actual quarterback, I mean, we've played against a backup. We've played against Zach Wilson, who had an injury off in the off season, and we've played against a third string. We've not had a good history of playing against quarterbacks this year. They've all been third string, second string backup, coming off an injury, and we've still not been able to do anything. And Josh Allen is arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I've said from the beginning that the Bills were going to go to the Super Bowl this year, and they're going to win it because I think that Josh Allen has that revenge in him from last year, and getting screwed over in the playoffs. So yeah, looking against playing these, backup quarterbacks that have put horrible numbers. Like if you look at the quarterbacks, not looking at Rodgers' number, but looking at their numbers, you would think that the Packers would have won all of those games based on the simple number of completions, everything like that. And yet they still won. So obviously something's going wrong. And then playing against a quarterback that actually knows what he's doing, knows how to run his offense is kind of scary.
Yeah, and some keys that I found too. This will be interesting. Obviously, they haven't been good against Green Bay defense covering the pass 17th in the league.
Oh
But
gosh, yeah.
my third point here, Green Bay pass defense 28th versus play action. So when you look at the Bills, they haven't had the best running game, right? So I wonder if that's going to be a key. Like, if they don't have a good running game, the defense is not going to bite on those play actions. So that might be interesting to watch in that. But when you look at this game, I'm going to start with you, Dave. What do you think the score is going to be, and what are you looking for this game? And the Packers actually maybe have a chance to win?
I have a hard time seeing them be able to win. Would I be shocked? A little bit, probably. The way they've been playing for the last 3 weeks, I've said I agree with her completely. The Bills were my preseason pick to win the Super Bowl. I love them. I think they're the best team in the league. I'm going to the game with the Vikings in 2 weeks, and I'm not excited about it. So, I feel like they might throw up 50 on us. So I just think they're that good. I think they're the best team in the league. So I would be a little shocked if they were able to, beat Buffalo. But I mean, crazier things have happened. You still do have Rodgers. You never know. Like, it could be a windy night, and just things happen. The Packers just play a great game. Like, it's, they're not a terrible team, so it's not like it couldn't happen. That being said, like I don't know what you can do, what you can change in such a short time. And like we said, it feels like something's out of whack with them. It feels like a big Buffalo win, at Sunday night.
And I did take a look at the forecast for Buffalo, and it looks like it's going to be maybe 50s. It's not going to be too windy. I mean, obviously that can change in the next couple of days. So,
yeah.
But yeah, when you're in Buffalo, that makes a difference. And if it was like when you look at it, that might benefit the Packers because at least they've got a solid running game, at least, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say our running game, if they utilize them, the other thing is AJ Dillon has not been the same this year. The last couple of years, he's just been a bulldozer. And this year he's kind of getting stopped. So I don't know if other teams have looked and seen what he's done and just formulated a game plan, on how to change their defensive line, to stop him, because that's been one thing that I've noticed. And, he's been putting up very small numbers. I have him on one of my teams, and last year was putting up, 12, 15, 16 points. And like this past 3 weeks, I've gotten 1.2 points on him, like almost consistently. And I'm kind of like, well, what's going on with that? So I think if they can get the ball in the hands of Dillon and Jones and just kind of utilize them, we have a small chance, very small chance.
Do you think, are the Packers suffering from losing Luke Getsy? I mean, or like their offensive coordinator is he, I don't know, doing any good overall?
It's hard to say because we lost a couple different people. We lost, Nathan Hackett, and I could go on a laundry list of stories about that. I honestly believe that Denver went all in on Nathan Hackett for the draw for Rodgers, and they're running their offense like it was Rodgers and not Wilson. I have beef with Wilson, so I won't go there. But, losing him, but then bringing in Tom Clements, the quarterback coach from, when Rodgers was, rookie, and, going back to the basics. I listened to all those Rodgers podcasts. I listened to the Joe Rogan. I listened to a couple of the other ones, the Aubrey Marcus one. And I was like very encouraged in the offseason thinking, okay, things have changed. He's getting back to the basics. He's doing a couple of like little drugs, like things are looking good. And I don't know, maybe going back to the basics wasn't what we needed. We need, 2011 Rodgers, even the past 2 MVP years. I mean, it's a huge, I don't know if there's ever been a drop off from an MVP like this year is going to show. Like, from the beginning, I was like, he's not going to win MVP. He doesn't have Adams. But even if we had Adams, would it make a difference,
Yeah, overall. And that's a great question. That's a great question. So kind of, moving on, we'll kind of get back to some of the Packers stuff in a bit here too, but I wanted to, move on here to the Vikings, and they have an interesting game. I was looking at and doing some research on the game, and a lot of people say, they should have an easy time versus the Cardinals. And this would almost be like a Lee Corso kind of moment. Not so fast, my friend. So what are your thoughts on this game, Dave?
It scares me a little. I say that, but every game the Vikings play scares me a little. That's how it is. Kyler's hard to contain. I mean, Arizona's only 3-4 or whatever they are. They're not playing well, and I get that, but it doesn't mean they don't have talent. Obviously, Hopkins is a problem, and our pass defense is just getting gouged luckily they've been playing well in the red zone, which is, kept scores down. But like the last game against, Teddy and Thompson had over 400 yards passing. It's like, I mean, we only give up 16 points. Like I said, they're bogging down when they need to. They're getting turnovers when they need to. But I worry about them. They do. I think Dalvin Cook needs to be more involved. I don't know about running up the middle because every time they do, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. But when they run him, we give him space on the outside and stuff. He's a little bit better. And then I feel like I wish they'd use him more in the passing game, but we'll see what happens. I think we win. We are at home, so that helped. We're coming off a bye. It would be a bad loss if you lost to them coming off of a bye. Playing at home, it's just a bad time to lose. But crazier things have happened, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals are susceptible up the middle. I mean, but really, I mean, they need to establish that running game to at least kind of open things up, don't they?
I think so. I've been thinking that they need to for a couple of weeks now. Jefferson's still having his big games, but he, no one else. To be honest, I'm a little disappointed in Thielen. KJ Osborne hasn't done much, or Smith hasn't done much. It's been Jefferson and Cook. And so when things start to, bog down and teams double and triple cover Jefferson like they have, I don't know if it's Thielen's just, a little bit slower than he was before. He's not getting open. Maybe Cousins isn't trusting him enough. I don't know. But things aren't moving like they should with the talent that they have on offense. And I'm not 100% sure why. So
what do you think about this game when you look at it, Emily?
I like to follow the tweets that have the double XP weekend with Kyler Murray. And I know with my boyfriend just talking about it all day that tomorrow the Modern Warfare, whatever it is, comes out. So I would say that I would say that the Vikings should win this game because I think Kyler Murray's head's going to be
busy all weekend.
Yeah. No, it'd be interesting to watch because I know, Arizona's again one of those hot teams from last year that have kind of done something weird. And I feel like almost, and I don't know if y'all feel this way too, but like the NFL's turned upside down. So like all the teams that were kind of very strong last year, where are they at this year? Not just talking about the Packers, but again, like the Rams, the Buccaneers, Kansas City still's doing good, Buffalo's still doing good, but where's Philly coming from? Philly's had a really horrible season since they've won that Super Bowl all those years ago. So you're just kind of seeing like an upturn, especially when the Miami, when they, started off strong this season too. And then the Patriots coming out, obviously, they lost to the Bears, but they've shown some, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
No, yeah, they've shown, yeah.
They've shown some heart. And so it'd be interesting to see. And I know Kyler Murray is just an interesting person to watch. I mean, he'll scramble and he'll make something happen, but who knows? I know watching what Dalvin Cook has done to us in previous seasons, it's kind of scary, especially Justin Jefferson. I know he's one of the ones that I had an opportunity to draft him, but I was just out of spite. I didn't draft him.
You should have.
I don't like what he's done to us because he just has the ability to get open, and it's insane. So I could see the Vikings winning this one. I absolutely could.
When I know my team is not going to win any playoff games, I want my fantasy teams to win all playoff games. So I go with. Yep. I was all in on the Vikings offense. I've been a little bit surprised though. I predicted, I don't know if you remember Dave at the beginning of the season, I thought the Vikings would have a historically good offense, right?
So did I.
And they've got the pieces there. So they're not, blowing teams out like maybe I thought they would. I was thinking they might have been, Randy Moss, Cunningham, that type of, and they still could probably get there, right? They've got the talent to do it. But they're still winning games, right? And that's what matters. And when you have, a team that's doing that, you're not going to bet against it. And I know Vikings Twitter is probably one of the most amazing things, especially, as a non-Vikings fan, just sit back and watch.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have fun just watching that shit show.
I love it. I love it.
It's ridiculous.
But
I've never seen anything like it.
Win or loss. The memes are great, all that stuff. This is kind of a trap game. I mean, with DeAndre Hopkins, he could have, a big game, right? And they've got Robbie Anderson. They traded, so they've got some pieces there. They're starting to kind of gel together. I mean, that'll be interesting to see that offense. But when you look at the defense, do the Vikings defense, do they have enough to stop some of these top offenses?
I don't trust them to. They've been making plays, but look what Fields did in the second half against us. I mean, he was walking them down the field a couple of times. We got the turnover at the end, luckily. But I mean, they didn't score a lot of touchdowns, but they were driving and getting. That's what they've been doing all year. I don't have the trust yet to stop like Josh Allen in 2 weeks. Like, I'm terrified of that. But these other guys, they let them pick them apart. They stall in the end zone or red zone, hold them to 3, and it's, then they get a occasional turnover here and there, some third down stops. They've been playing better than I probably am leading on, but they are getting gouged yards wise, especially passing. So I guess a big team, a good quarterback, a great quarterback. No, I really don't have that much trust. I think the Buffalo game in a couple weeks is going to be a big test, because if they hang in there, they don't give up 50, they don't get blown out, then it's like, okay, like we can hang with the best guys. If they go in there and just get smoked, which I hope doesn't happen because I'm going to Buffalo and I don't live nearby there, so I was excited for that. Then that'll just be bad. You'll say, okay, they are who I thought they were, like just a good team that's getting by, and they'll make the playoffs. Maybe they win a game, but they're probably not going to compete for a Super Bowl. So that'll be the big test in a couple weeks.
Well, Tengang has some, he's on fire with comments. Kirk not putting up numbers, but has made game-winning drives. That's what it matters. I mean, if you have a quarterback that's going to make game-winning drives, I mean, that's kind of, I feel like, and I always harp on Rodgers as a Bears fan. That's kind of in my nature now, right? But he had been doing that, and I guess he does it against the Bears, like has the game-winning drives, and you just kind of, when he has the ball in his hands, you just kind of think he's gonna, make something happen. Lately, he hasn't been doing that. But when you look at Kirk Cousins, he has a decent amount of it's like 28. So he's got a bunch of game-winning drives in his career, doesn't he, Dave?
He's got quite a few, and you want to talk about. We talked about it last season or this off season. Like last year, he did it a lot. He led so many fourth quarter drives, and the defense would just give up, a touchdown the other way, and that's not on him. Like he can only do, he doesn't play defense. Like, so this year I think the difference is last year he's doing what he did last year. Just this year, the defense is making a stop, or he scored, with 20 something seconds left against Detroit. The overtime, against the Saints. Like he's just not giving these teams, chances. There's been late wins. Like against Chicago, he scored with 2 minutes left. You don't give him enough time, hopefully. And and they've been closing them out. So I think he's been fine the last couple of years. In last year's defense was just historically terrible, especially in those last 2 minutes of second halves, or both halves really. But so that's the difference in why you're 5-1 compared to 1-5, is that they're making the plays at the end that they weren't making last year.
Well, moving on to one of my favorite games of the week, and I don't know what to think. I'm so conflicted because as a Bears fan, I know we're not ready to compete. So, but it's hard to root for a loss to get a better draft pick. But I've talked about, I understand it. So when we look at the Cowboys, this is a team that is always, they've had the talent, they've had kind of the aspirations of getting to Super Bowl, but they just something. I mean, they trip over themselves, or that they just don't have the right coach. And when you look at this game, actually, I want to obviously start with you, Emily. I mean, what are your thoughts on Mike McCarthy as a coach overall?
I have a lot of love and respect for him, but I don't think he's that good of a coach. Obviously, he's our Super Bowl winning coach, in these recent years. And I don't like the way that the Packers treated him. I don't agree with firing coaches midseason. I think, at the end of the day, we've got to remember that these are human beings. This is their livelihood. So the way that we did him after that Arizona game all those years ago was very dirty, and I did not appreciate that. But on the flip side of it, he's too comfortable of a coach. And I can say a lot about Jerry Jones living here, the way that he runs his team. It's a very, Jason Garrett was the same. All that Jerry Jones wants is a yes man. That's all he wants. And Jason Garrett played that game as long as he could. And then Mike McCarthy saw the opportunity, and now he's playing that game. And until Jerry Jones gets out of that position as, owner and CFO and CEO and, whatever million of titles that he has, they'll never do anything.
Mhm.
They'll make it as far as they can in the playoffs, but that's it. And I don't think that Dak Prescott's that good of a quarterback. He's a very nice person. I myself have not run into him, but I do have friends that have run into him, and he's a very nice and pleasant person, but he's not that good of a quarterback. And you can see how Cooper Rush was able to run and pull the team. And in years previous too, whenever Dak's gotten injured, other quarterbacks have come in and done something, and then he comes back and they kind of, go back down that little path again, and then they have a little bit of a spark and they'll make it into the playoffs, but they can't put it away.
It almost worked out perfectly for the Cowboys that then Cooper Rush had a bad game the week prior. And so there wasn't that controversy. I, on the other hand, I think Dak can be a good quarterback. I don't know about a great quarterback, but he can be, a playoff quarterback. I think he can, but this happens in Green Bay too. It's what you surround the quarterback with is important as well. And, receiver wise, they've got some young receivers, Noah Brown, they've got, and Michael Gallup coming back in. It can be a good piece. CeeDee Lamb, I don't know if he just needs to mature or, what he needs to become that number one, receiver. So, but when you look at it, their identity in the past has always been running. So it's been interesting to kind of see them try to do the passing thing. But really, when you look at the Cowboys, if they're going to be successful, it's the running game. And so when I look at this game, the Bears at the Cowboys, and unfortunately, and obviously this is kind of a aside, unfortunately, the Bears are going to wear their orange helmets and everything orange again, which I'm not really a fan of, but, it is what it is. So really, stopping the run for the Bears is going to be important. It looks like Ezekiel will likely be out, so it'll be Pollard, who still is a formidable back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a whole conversation last year that Pollard was a way better back than Zeke, and he deserved better. We get 99% of the Dallas games because of being local, and, the whole feed me is the most cringeworthy thing. And the fact that after he does something good, he taps his helmet and wants to come out. You watch him play and he gets, 5 to 10 yards and then all of a sudden take me out. And Pollard does all the dirty work, gets him all the way down the field, and then they put Zeke in and he scores a touchdown. And it's in my opinion, it's unfair to Pollard because he's a great quarterback. I tweeted that so many times last year. I was like, he deserves better. Get him out of Dallas, because that's got to be, I don't think these players get resentful, but I would get resentful if I was doing all the dirty work, just ran 90 yards down the field, and then you put star-studded Zeke in there, let him score the touchdown, and then he gets, all the praise and the glory because he's the one that scored the touchdown.
It's like it's like in fantasy football. Sometimes you keep players on your roster or you start them on a week just because they've got that name and that pass. But Zeke, he's not the player that he was when he first came into the league.
No, he's not. I think and this is going to sound weird saying that, but I think he got comfortable with the money. He got paid. And then if you look at the statistic numbers of him, they've gone less than half of the yards that he's had, first season, second season, he got paid. And then all of a sudden he's just an average run of the mill, running back that's doing some things okay. But you've got to be in there. You've got to have that longevity of, keep staying on the field. You're pushing your team, to keep going. But the second that he does anything at all, he taps himself out. And I'm not okay with that. I don't like the Cowboys, but it's annoying to watch that day after day. And the whole feed me. No, just stop. That needs to go away. It's awful. It's cringeworthy.
One thing that's not cringeworthy on the Bears is the running game. And so it's just been last week. We talked about who has the best offensive line in the NFC North. And we'll just one question. Who do you have on that, Dave? Best line in the
best
NFC
O-line?
North? Yep.
Probably Detroit.
Okay, you said Detroit. Okay. What about you, Emily? Who do you think?
But I think the Vikings are close.
Yeah, I was going to say Vikings. I would say Vikings over Detroit just from the games, but I haven't been able to watch a lot of the Lions games. So, yeah, but I will say from watching Monday night's game was probably one of the first Bears games that I've actually been able to sit down and watch since we played against them that Sunday night, all those weeks ago. And Justin Fields had time. He had some time, which was kind of, for me as a Packer fan, jealous because I'm like, where the heck is Rodgers' time? But he had some time in the pocket. So I think my first would be Vikings. But Bears and Lions might be tied for that O-line.
So yeah, I mean that's a great point. So Sam Mustipher was benched, and they now Tevin Jenkins. So interesting. They almost they thought he was temperamental. They almost cut him, and now he's literally the best offensive lineman. I mean, there's a play where one of the I don't know, it was Matthew Judon. One of the players was kind of going for a block of a pass, and then if you look at it, Jenkins just like shoved him down, like like it was like a sack of potatoes or something. It was just like threw him down. And so when you look at their offensive line, that has been a bone of contention for the Bears, all season, trying to figure something out. So that was good to see. We've got a building block there. And so, and also with the way they've run the ball, and let me see if I can find the stats, but they are, let me see if I can find it here. The Bears are right up there. They're one of the best running teams in the NFL. Here we go. They've got 181 rushing yards per game, wow. Which is, I mean, that's something. I mean, you got Montgomery, you've got Herbert, and you've got what Justin Fields does. So that's huge for an offense when you're able to establish a run. Now, overall, it's hard because we haven't had the receivers and stuff like that. But if the Bears can win this game, that's where it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if do you think the Bears are going to win this game, Emily?
See, this is the game where I was talking about earlier. I don't know who to root for, simply because I, have a strong dislike for both teams, in the best way possible. I don't know. It would be interesting. I think if the Dallas defense, can contain Fields and not let him do all the running and can contain the running game, I think Dallas will win. But I think if Justin Fields can get out of the pocket and just, make some things happen, you never know. I think that this is another one of those, could be anybody's game. It honestly could.
What about you, Dave? What do you think?
I think Dallas's defense is too good, and they'll slow down, Chicago. I mean, they're already not a high-flying offense, you know what I mean? So Dallas is playing really well. I don't think that Dallas's offense is amazing. It's not right now, but I think it'll do enough to beat Chicago just because I think that the defense will slow down Chicago. If Fields will make some plays, he's been making some plays, but I don't know if it's going to be enough.
Well, in the one thing when you look at the Bears defense, it'll be interesting now the adjustment without Robert Quinn. I think that's going to be to see what they're able to do. Because the Bears have not had a very good pressure on the quarterbacks even with him, and Robert Quinn has not been a player that he was last year. So that's going to be interesting to see if they can actually pressure Dak. So. I'm not, like I said, I'm not expecting a win, but if they win and we see some more things from Fields, that's really all I'm looking for, right?
I mean, I think so, yeah. And I wouldn't be mad if Chicago won. We knocked Dallas down a little bit more. That'd be cool.
Oh my gosh. I think it's definitely interesting, seeing how we've all kind of been somewhat on the fence this week. Some games you feel very positive about, and other games you're like, oh, kind of iffy. But the fact that all three of us are kind of iffy on this week, and not a for sure yes on any of us. I know for me, Lee's probably the most negative on Lee's who we're playing against with the Bills, but could be anyone's game. It's the NFL. You never know what's going to happen week in and week out.
Speaking of that, I did want to kind of go back to the Packers schedule and get some of your thoughts on this, Emily, again. So when we go ahead and look at the Packers schedule, I mean, where are some wins that you can see happening, for sure? It's tough, right? Yeah.
I don't want to lose on Christmas to the Dolphins. I know I've said that previously. I was like, it's Christmas. We can't lose. Honestly, I can see the Titans. I thought I had that as a trap game at the beginning of the year, but I feel maybe the most confident about that one. The Eagles, that's a hard one. Obviously, starting from where we're at now, the Bills, more than likely a loss. Lions, we might be able to pull that out. Cowboys, it is in Green Bay. It is Mike McCarthy's, return to Lambeau after, a couple years. Then you got the Titans. That should be a win. Eagles, we've consistently lost to the Eagles in the past couple of years. The Bears, that's at, Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a tough game. Then we finally have our bye week. I think we'll beat the Rams. Fingers crossed we win on Christmas. We're playing the Vikings. We're playing the Vikings at home. I had that as a game that we would split. Maybe by that time we'll get it, get our act together. And then fingers crossed we put all our players in on the Lions. So
yeah. So they're 3-4 right now, right?
Unfortunately.
All right. So Bills are lost 3-5. Lions
as a win.
4, and that's at Lions. Okay, 4-5.
4 and
Cowboys
5.
Lose to Dallas.
I think we'll lose to Dallas, unfortunately. So that's what, 5 and 6.
4 and 6. 4 and 6.
4 and
right?
6. 4 and 6. Okay, Titans should be a win, so that should be 5 and 6. Eagles will be a loss, 5 and 7.
We'll give you a win.
Okay, 6 and 7.
6 and 7. Yeah.
I have a week to cry. Rams 7 and 7. Dolphins 8 and 7. Vikings, I put that as a game for us to win, so 9 and 7. So 10 and 7 is what.
There's no chance they're going 7 and 3 the rest of the way. I'm sorry. There's no chance.
That is so crazy. Like 10 and 7. It's almost a best case scenario when you look at this team, right?
There's no way.
I don't know. I mean, I live in Wisconsin. I mean, there's got to be a lot more drinking in Wisconsin, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. I know. I already have a bottle of wine pulled out for tomorrow night for whenever I do my other podcast. So we've established that we're going to be drinking. There probably will be a lot of drinks happening on Sunday night. Sometimes I feel like if I do start drinking wine, we do start playing a little bit better, honestly. So I've already bought a couple bottles. So. But yeah, I guess once you say like, there's no way we, make a 7-game stretch out of this. We've done it before. Can we do it again? I don't know. I'd love to see it, but in a weird way, I've had such heartbreak these past 3 years in the playoffs that it might be nice to not have to, schedule an appointment with a cardiologist, This past year, I know we don't talk about last season anymore, but my heart rate got up to 188 beats per minute in the final game. My watch was like, you're inactive, 120 beats. You're inactive, 140. You're inactive, 160. It got up to 188 when it was a slow, very painful death of that game. And yeah, the next day I had to schedule an appointment with my doctor.
Oh my God.
Well, all right. So let's see. Yeah. 9 wins with how bad the NFC is. We'll still get you the 7th seed. That,
Probably.
Yeah. And when you look at it, if you have, that's always going to be the thing. You have Rodgers, you can do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's almost been, that's the crutch. You live and die by Aaron Rodgers, and that's what it's going to be. What happened? I see all hell breaking loose if the Packers lose once to the Lions, right?
Yeah.
That's just,
like without having half of our team bench, years past, we've, split the games with them because our last game of every season is always against the Lions. And usually for at least the past couple of years, we've had that playoff, spot locked in. And so we've been able to pull our players and, see what some of the backups can do. But with, what happens, does Rodgers retire if we go, 9-8, or even worse, 8-9, what then, then is it a complete rebuild? It's hard to say.
Well, then the other question is, as a Packer fan, if they go 8-9 or 9-8 with Rodgers, he's going to want to get that money, number one. But number two, he doesn't want to go out that way.
Yeah.
But as a Packers fans, do you almost want to say, okay, it's time. Let's get him out of here. Let's start something else.
Yeah. No, I think at the end of the day, like I've said this since we've drafted Love, Rodgers is our best chance. Mm-hmm. Has that Super Bowl window very narrowly escaped. Absolutely. I think these past 3 years were our best options. Going into it this year, we were hyped up all off season. The defense is going to be great. The offense, and neither one of them are good. The only thing that's been good on our teams is our punter. That's the only thing. And
you know where you got him, right?
Yes, thank you very much.
Battle
it's funny
down.
how we all kind of trade players in amongst ourselves. It's kind of like a weird, sibling icky thing.
Well, yeah, we talked about on draft day. We predicted that the Lions and the Vikings would make a draft trade, and it happened. And Dave, how does it feel? Does it feel weird to be kind of the front runner in the division at this point now?
Not really. Like, we won the division a couple of years ago. It's not like we've been terrible. We're not Detroit. Like, can we calm down a little bit? Like, yes, we're always competitive. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's not like we're terrible usually, but no, like I'm not like shocked or surprised. I picked them to win the division. We're always decent. So no, it's not like a miracle is happening right now. We're watching like Jesus be born.
Hey, if the Vikings make the Super Bowl, that might be
that would be happen. Jesus being born. If we want, yeah.
Tell you what, this would be another one.
That's all I want.
Tang Yang here. Colts will trade 2 first-round picks of the Green Bay for Rodgers. Yeah, we'll
probably would.
With what's happened to Matt Ryan, oh my gosh,
that was a terrible addition.
He's out for the rest of the season. I heard that.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Did he get injured?
No, he
got hurt. No, well, they got hurt. But it's not season ending, and they just made the switch.
I was joked in college that how the ticker across like sports channels says if someone is out and why they're out. I was they'd say like Matt Ryan out and in parentheses stinks.
That's what they need for him. Yeah,
Indianapolis needs to figure out their quarterback situation because it's been an interesting I don't even know what to say. Yeah, carousel.
It's just been
it's been nuts. Well, I definitely appreciate you guys coming on today. Where can everyone find you again, Emily?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter, Emily with 2 Y's, Johnson with 3 N's, and then also on Instagram, just my first and last name, Emily Johnson with no extra letters and no N's for losses.
And you said you're doing a podcast tomorrow night. What's that podcast?
Yes, I am one of the co-hosts of Green and Gorgeous with Game on Wisconsin. So we do have a podcast every Thursday at 7 p.m. We do kind of talk about a little bit about how the previous week went, what to look forward to the new week. And we also do a Thirsty Thursday segment where we like to pick out our favorite players, what their outfits were, and we rate them. So it's kind of fun.
Very good. And you'll have to see Shelby. She'll be on next week. She actually has her own clothing line where she takes vintage kind of old Viking stuff and redoes it. I'm pretty sure that would maybe be a 1 on the rating scale though for you.
Everyone looks good in purple.
Where can everyone find you again, Dave?
At Viking Dave 18 on Twitter, but I'm currently suspended for something stupid. Twitter's dumb. So if you haven't seen me on Twitter for the last 5 days, that's why. I'll be back in like 2 days. And the fantasy show, fantasy football, Once Upon a Sunday. We actually recorded tonight. So yeah, that'll be out. Well,
make sure everyone likes and subscribes and definitely, says something good about Dave or even bad while he's not able to see it. So
there's been so much stuff you keep tagging me in and I can't like it. I can't comment on it. I'm like, I'll be back soon.
Once again, I'm NFL Outdated, and this is the Freezin for NFC North podcast. Thanks again, everyone, and we will see you next week.